should be required to go and read about the history and write about those things. Well, I need to have some context. So I just
that he actually has a hunch that this one here is going to be his most
and there were no constraints on what I could write about. So I can tell you this. I worked on a very popular product that I bet all of you love called In People Like Me Who Get the Good Fortune. And they told me that WordPress.com, this important stuff they're giving advice about. I think that's a place that they work. They're not that excited, they're not that passionate about. I think that the future work is going to depend on managers and founders that trust their employees. We spend so much time, they spend so much time trying to hire the best talent, and then they tell them what to do, which is a mistake. If you're hiring people who are really good, you want to let them, empower them to find their jobs and to have a lot of control over how they get their work done.
And does remote matter?
I think remote's another way. If you have an employee that's really smart and does good work and they want to work remotely, of course you should let them try. I think it's another option, and that can help someone who likes to work from home. They're more comfortable at home, they don't like to travel. It means they don't have to drive to work, they save time on the commute. So I think it's an option that any smart manager would allow. It doesn't have to be everybody does it, but they should allow it and try it. And if it works, then everybody wins.
Who your competition is inside out, right? You need to know, and you need to be better than them in every aspect of execution. It's a bad practice. I think most of the companies that have. Let's get started. I'm going to talk and utilizing it for building product that what Seed is designed for is. And when you're ready to test your business model out, means for you as an entrepreneur. So I think, and not just a bunch of marketing. You really. What am I going to do in those 8 months? How am I going to bootstrap my small amount of revenue? You're really an acqui-hire. It doesn't matter how long you've been around for, and you're competing with very young companies. So you need to.
I was trying to give the audience a sense of what it takes to actually get into that small percentage of companies that make it big. In Europe, especially, about 98% of the companies over here either fail or they hit a very stagnant kind of trajectory. But there are about 2% of the companies that really make it big. And I was trying to dissect that 2% and say, here are some of the things that are common with this 2%. And if you want to get into that 2% club, here are some things that you need to do, right? So. I think it really depends on the sector that they're in. If you're in gaming, it's a different problem. If you're in social marketing, it's a different problem. But there are kind of 3 areas that companies can really focus on. One is building a business, and there's some things in business modeling that you can actually do. The others are changes in venture capital that you could really need to take advantage of. And the third is developing product, right? So there are kind of 3 really important pillars that young companies over here need to focus on if they want to tap into that 2%.
That's the sign. Right? And what this guy did was something interesting. He was drawn by the students. He designed a completely different direction. And it's about winning. I'm talking about. Let's talk about soccer. And none of them match. Technologies and these forces have on our behaviors. That's always meaningful. So I know we are thinking how you can add value to your You're having a huge opportunity to keep touching and showing how soft it is. Bad question.
Well, I spoke about the importance of being able and willing to take risks, understanding that the current environment requires being able to change. And the problem is that many organizations are having troubles adapting and coping with the pace of change. So I spoke about the need to actually embrace change, experiment, and stop playing it safe.
That can be very risky and dangerous.
Yeah, I'm not saying take stupid risk or just try, stuff that you don't know what is going to work. I think calculated risk is important, but if you are not willing to try stuff, you are not going to find out what is going to work and what is not going to work.
Highlight the challenges that we're having. We're relatively small. It's not that easy to come from Sofia to Budva or
their portfolios and some other incubators here.
Right now, it's investors are more active.
They came in with no pants on and they were wearing board shorts and quick
reminiscence for all of you guys, just down the line. Dan, you can start.
Know your numbers. This is the first advice.
Innovation, and somebody comes up with something that does not do any good.
You cannot, if you start with this in my
Best idea to approach an investor is to have a fantastic company that's investable, generally solving a huge problem, potentially making a lot of money for yourself and your investor. And then the best practice, what I would recommend to people is do your homework, find out who the best investor for your particular situation is, and just find out how they work, how they operate, and then just, they usually have standard process for application. Find out someone to introduce you if they don't, and then start it from there. It's usually not that difficult, but the first prerequisite is have a great idea that really changes the world and that potentially can be very successful.
What is the main message for the people who are starting business?
It's easy. Now is pretty much the best time to start a business in that part of the world. Funding is getting more and more available. There is a lot of resources supporting startups. It's just about passion. You have to really love what you want to do and know how to solve it, the problem you're targeting. And just go ahead and do it. Do it while you're young, so you don't lose anything. You just waste 6 months if it fails, and then if it doesn't fail, you work on it for 4 years to sell it and become a millionaire. So just go ahead and start it now.
You don't need to have a PhD?
We don't ever ask people, do they have PhDs or doctorate degrees or anything. We don't ask them for their resumes. We ask them, tell us something you built. Show us what you did before. And then this is how we evaluate people's ability to execute rather than what they academically learned. Academic education is just worthless.